everybody, Jackie Woodside again with the Conscious Living Summit. I have a treat for you today. Notice that I said it was going to be 13 phenomenal speakers, but I couldn't just stop. This is your bonus content for being a subscriber and a participant at the Conscious Living Summit. And just put your seatbelts on, because this is a man, Bill McKenna, who I've worked with as his clients. I have worked with him on projects and doing other teachings before at other summits. And his approaches to conscious living and health and well-being and consciousness are unlike anything you've ever heard before. So get your notebook out, get ready. I'd like to welcome Bill McKenna, who is the founder of Cognomovement, which he will tell you more about. Also a published author and someone who has been in the space of consciousness and conscious living now for the last 20 to 25 years. Bill, it is just absolutely phenomenal to have you here. I didn't say this in my intro, but also one of my favorite human beings and a dear friend of mine. So Bill, thank you for your generosity and wanting to be a part of the Conscious Living Summit.
Oh, just an honor to be here. I absolutely love it that you've put this on and done this and brought all these great teachers together.
It's really been fun. So I've begun these interviews kind of casually, I think people would like to hear a little bit about you. So maybe just a short snippet on what led you into this space, but then also just a little bit of what your corner is on this whole thing about conscious living.
Oh gosh, well, thank you. First of all, I had no intention of kind of going down this road. My life was very material. I was very logic and very materialistic. And I just had a bunch of events happen that led to an awakening that I wasn't prepared for. It was really dramatic. I had a opening inadvertently of my crown. I had no idea what a crown was or a crown chakra. I thought, as I always say, is the crown, chakra was, some sort of Indian food, and I didn't want it too spicy. I put the chicken with that, not too spicy.
So Bill, for people who are newer to this space, when you say you had an opening of your crown, can you just explain that a little bit for people who might be not quite sure what that means?
Well, gosh, I didn't know anything about this as well, but you, me, and everybody else has an energy system. And in the West here, we don't really know much about that, but in the East, they've known about it for millennia. And there are plexuses of nerves and also energy centers. And you have one at the top of your head, in the middle of your forehead, and down the center line of your body to the base of your torso. And they have different governing over parts of your life, like survival, relationships, love, communications. And at the top of your head is this kind of divine connection, if you will. And that inadvertently had opened, and with that came this euphoric, almost intoxicated state and information. A lot of information would come in, and kind of coupled with this in the external world, a lot of teachers started showing up. They say when the student's ready, the master appears. And that happened to me. And very foreign to me, right? This realm and the type of things, I guess, that you hear about in scripture from 2,000 years ago, miracles and people bilocating and levitating. It's like things that you're like, not true. Yeah, well, maybe 2,000 years ago, maybe, but I'm not really too sure about that. And then, all of a sudden there I am and things are happening, and, I'm not into drugs or anything. I saw it, it happened, it's right there, So anyway, I had
must have been really, quite an experience. And were you frightened when you were going through it?
Yeah, sure I was. It's foreign. It's like I was frightened to the point. I had a friend that was a brain surgeon from Cornell, and I called him up and I was like, hey, some things are going on, and he was just aware enough to say, okay, all right, well, from a medical perspective, we talked about all the things and that were going on, these sensations and feelings. And then he said, well, actually, there are people that experience these things in these kind of a lot of times these gurus types, or they'll experience it through going through an ashram and having an awakening and stuff. And so he was really good about it, and I was able to kind of go on my way and search out the approach. Well, actually, I didn't really have to search them out; they found me.
Yeah.
So
that was a major turning point in your life.
Major, yeah.
You left your career behind at that point, or soon after? How did the career transition occur?
Oh, crumbled. Everything crumbled. Yeah, yeah, it was complete. You think you got it under control, but yeah, during an event like this that goes on not for days, not for months, but for years, you can no longer maintain the old lifestyle. Not only people leave that were kind of responding to how you used to be, but also your reality shifts in every aspect.
Yeah. So tell me about how this related to your, so now your career is in awakening consciousness, health. We were just talking before I hit record about a mutual friend of ours that you helped, who was flat on her back with a back condition, to be back up and functional again. So, how did this awakening relate to your career? And tell us a little bit about, a couple things, Bill. What does conscious living mean to you? I ask that question of every person who's on the summit. And then how does that relate to the work that you're doing? I can't wait to hear you talk about it, because I love your work.
Okay. All right. Well, first things I can do is try to define like the level of consciousness, or what is that? And your, mine, and everyone else's level of consciousness is simply the understanding that we've come to thus far in our life. So for me, I was in a state of fear and anger in, previous to the experience of the awakening. And I would see things to be afraid of. And also I would see antagonists everywhere, and this reality, I would simply see things that way, and they would come to me equal to that. Now, after in the process of the awakening, for example, I'm using myself as an example, but my understanding shifted. And what I mean by that is that forgiveness became in my best interest. I was very resentful, and I held resentments like my crown jewels, and they were my treasures. And so the release of those treasures.
You say that with a little pride, I think. That you held right on to those. Damn it, I'm going to hold on to these.
Oh yeah, I held on to them like for dear life. And so the release of those, and all that forgiveness, and then the reaching out for divine connection, that's what ended up causing the awakening. But I discovered it was in my best interest. Now, what happened is I started to understand the world differently. And I ended up creating something called the map of the levels of awareness. What became clear to me is that with the different feelings and thoughts that we have, different realities emerge. They call these dimensions the third dimension, fourth dimension, and fifth dimension, and they have certain properties. Time behaves a certain way. Your ability to create a new reality for yourself operates completely differently based upon what you're thinking and feeling. So I've actually set this up. If it's okay with you, that I can share it with everybody.
I think everybody would love to hear more about it.
Okay. Hopefully I have permission to share.
Oh, I don't know.
Let's see. Yeah,
Oh,
I
there you
think
go.
I think I have the ability to
Look
share.
at you go. That's awesome.
Look at me. Look at me. Okay. I need to bear with me a second, and
Okay.
we'll make it full screen. Here we go. So this is, I have this split out here, is the third dimension, the fourth, and the fifth dimension. Now, it might be hard for some of you to see, but you could stop this video and check it out. But here, I'll just kind of go over this so you can kind of get a good understanding of this. For example, in the third dimension, this is the home of conditional love. That means rules. That means laws, rules, regulations. And for us, most of society is in the third dimension right now. It's all conditional, right?
I did want to ask that, if I can just interrupt. So our current kind of consciousness and evolution is at the third dimension right now?
Correct, right?
Like kind of across the board, or are there people that are moving into the fourth and fifth? I know you want to describe them. I'm just trying to locate people kind of where we currently are.
So the primary, if you look in this right over here, the range of understandings, so is in the third dimension, fear and anger are driving motivations, right?
Okay.
There are many other driving motivations, but if you look out at the world right now, right, there's a lot of fear and a lot of anger.
Yeah. Have you noticed?
I don't know if you noticed lately, but there seems to be a bit of that going on. So the fourth dimension, in the fourth dimension, we are letting go of our judgments and assumptions. And yes, the answer is yes. More and more and more people are moving into the fourth dimension.
Yeah. Yeah.
So as I mentioned earlier, that reality changes in the different dimensions. When you start to let go of your judgments and you're assuming, right? I'm assuming that the person's wrong or whatever. And I start to accept and allow people to be, do, and say as they wish. I start to move into this fourth dimension. And when I do, what happens is time starts to operate differently. So in the third dimension, you can kind of judge for yourself. If you are thinking about whatever's happening in the past, or you think about something happening in the future, with whatever's happening right now here, you're reacting to, right? If that is it, and you're looking at things as I want it, I don't want it, I resent it, or I need this over here, that type of thing, seats you down into this third dimension. Mm-hmm. In the third dimension, what happens is you're bound by the laws of time, the time that you and me know about, the 60 seconds in a minute, 60 minutes in an hour. These are laws, right? They're a law. If you get in your car and go 60 miles an hour, guess what? You're going to be 60 miles down the road. Right? We're very familiar with that.
Interesting. For the past several months, I've been saying to my spouse and to some of my close colleagues that it feels like time is condensed.
Isn't that so great?
I've said that multiple times over the last few months.
Guess what? You are entering into the fourth dimension. When you're in the fourth dimension, time becomes malleable and it speeds up. So the experience that you're having is, hey, things are speeding up. If you notice in the past few months, your attention has gone away from the past and future and has become more focused on now. Mm-hmm. You probably have started to let go of your judgments and your assumptions.
Yeah, totally.
Right?
Yeah, I've been saying, I just feel like I'm not stressed. I feel like a different human being. It's been extraordinary.
Well, you did some good work. You did some good work.
With you, Coach Bill.
You got in, you didn't give up, you did it. So in when we are in these different dimensions, as we mentioned, there is even the fifth dimension here, and the fifth dimension is where all things become one. Time, if I think it, it happens, and it happens instantly. So there's a gradient that happens, right? As we change our mind and we get further and further towards the fifth dimension, you go towards a state of bliss and oneness. And with that, time speeds up, but you have to master every thought and emotion, or you will create whatever reality. So for all the audience, how do I know if I'm in the third dimension? Well, there's a couple of ways to know. The first is the range of understanding. Where am I in shame, guilt, grief, humiliation, anger, blaming, fear, anxiety, craving type addictions, or in a state where, like the scornful pride, right? There was a lot of that politically, right? So if I find myself in one of those emotional states, I'm probably sticking down into the fourth dimension. Now, all of us jump in between third, fourth, and some of us even hit the fifth dimension now and again. A very odd experience, which I have a lot of stories about. But in the fourth dimension, when we start to leave the third dimension and go into the fourth, all of a sudden we become willing. That is the gateway to the fourth dimension, is I'm willing to change. And then I become willing to forgive. And then I become willing to let go of the conditions that I put on my love. So I can have a good feeling towards you without having some condition on it or some want of some kind. And then finally, as we say in the fifth dimension, joy, peace, love, that sort of thing. And time will operate appropriately to whatever we're thinking and feeling. The other way that you can tell is, where is my focus? Well, if my focus is on my lower three energy centers. Now, what are the lower three energy centers? Those three lower chakras, if you will, are going to be focused around either your survival, which is money, right? Sex and power. Money, sex, power. Now you might say, well, I'm not into that. Well, maybe it's actually the opposite, meaning you have very, very strong feelings to attraction or aversion. And those will be where your attention is.
Okay.
In the fourth dimension, your focus will start to be here, up in the middle of your head and the top of your head. And what I mean by that is that this will be your spirituality, and also not only your spiritual connection, but your intuition. And in the fifth dimension, what'll happen is your attention is drawn down to the center of your chest, your heart. So with this map here, you start to be able to realize, oh my gosh, where am I? And knowing where I am will show you, oh gosh, well, what am I going to get? Well, over here in the ability, in your ability, if you are in the third dimension, your ability to create a miracle is virtually nil. You will manifest things through force of will. You're like, I'm going to pound it and work and work and work and manipulate, and then it's going to happen. In the fourth dimension, it becomes very quick. I think about it, and then it shows up. In the fifth dimension, it's instant. Now, when we are in, because of the work you did, Jackie, you might relate to this. I don't know, but In the third dimension, all of the emotions, these are negative emotions. We don't choose negative emotions. We actually have reactions. Negative emotions are reactions. I didn't ask to be mad. I'm just mad. I didn't ask to be jealous. I'm just jealous. I feel shame. I didn't say, oh, hey, Bill, you should be feeling really ashamed. Well, no, I just feel it. Well, what are those? Those are from our subconscious. So in the third dimension, we are reacting. And this reactions come out of our subconscious. And this may be a little further than I need to go in this particular talk, but it is a feeling in our body. If you pay close attention, it's a feeling in your body. Your subconscious expresses itself through the physical body as a feeling.
Mm-hmm.
In the fourth dimension, you're in your conscious mind. You're able to make choices, right? Forgiving is a choice.
Right.
It's not a reaction. It's just
perfect sense. Yeah.
I make a choice. And in the fifth dimension, we're in the superconscious. The superconscious is fully connected to all. So these, I know I've been talking here and I know I have limited time. I'm just going to, one last thing. In the third dimension, you're in fear and doubt. And in the fourth dimension, you go into love and trust. So I'm trading my fear and doubt for love and trust. So hopefully does that make sense?
What is the red arrow up between awareness and time? That red arrow on the left, what does that mean?
Oh, I was just utilize this for just a focus of how does time behave here in the different dimensions.
Okay, got it.
Yeah. So time not only will behave differently. Let's say that you're on the road. I'm literally driving to make the plane. Well, it can be manipulated if you're in the fourth dimension, but not in the third. So I can give you an example. This is a real life, God knows it happened to me example. Do we got time for one example?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, all right. So I started getting an understanding of these dimensions, right? And then I was able to add more to it over time. But I was making a trip from San Diego, California to Riverside, California. Every single Saturday, I would leave my house at 8:15 and I would arrive exactly at 10 o'clock. Well, what ended up happening is, after years of doing this trip, a bunch of lemony snickets, everything went wrong, a series of unfortunate events. And I, got out of the house with my wife and daughter, and we got out a half an hour late. And then on top of that, it was 10 minutes of fueling, because the tank's empty. Now I'm 40 minutes late, right? No way I'm going to make it. And what I do is I set the speedometer at 70 so I don't get a ticket, because I know me, so I don't do that. I always do speedometer, no tickets. I mean, the cruise control is what I'm trying to say. Yeah. So there I am. I got on the road and I'm gripping the steering wheel and I'm like, damn it, I'm going to be late, and I do never late, right? So I'm gripping the steering wheel and I'm watching the clock tick tock, and then I'm like, Bill. It was like almost like, it was like, Bill, you understand dimensions, right? Well, kind of trying. And it's like, what are the characteristics of time in the fourth dimension? Well, time is malleable in the fourth dimension. Okay, well, what is the emotion when you're in the fourth dimension? Well, it is some derivative of unconditional love. We go from conditional to unconditional, right? Some derivative. So, and in degrees, right? This is a gradient. So I'm there and I was like, gratitude. gratitude is how you enter the fourth dimension. And I started being grateful for everything. I started being grateful for the road. The road is smooth. The little bumps on the road, the tuck, 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 keeps you in the lane, right?
Yeah, yeah.
It's like grateful. I was like, I'm so grateful for those little bumps. They've kept me alive so many times, right? Tuck, 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 I was like, oh my God, I'm so grateful for those little bumps. I'm grateful for my wife and my daughter. Their systems are working perfect. Their little hearts are beating. And if their little heart wasn't beating, I'd be having a different day.
Yeah.
And so I was like, oh my God, I'm so grateful for them. And their bodies are working perfectly. And I was like, and then I was grateful for the sun shining and everything. I just one thing after the next, right? And then, what happens is I was like, do not look at the clock, because the clock is a rule. It's a dimension. It's third dimension. So I was like, do not look at clock. So I took a piece of paper, I put it over the clock, and I put it over the clock, and I said, I'm going to be there. I'm going to be there at 10 minutes to 10, right? 10 minutes to 10, which is earlier than I could normally make it. So I'm just gratitude, gratitude, gratitude the whole way. And my hands relaxed. I let go of fear, which I knew took me out of the third dimension into the fourth. And I made the drive, one gratitude after the next. And I just did not stop for the entire hour and 45 minutes. And every once in a while, the thought would come, Bill, the things at 10 o'clock. I know I'll be there 10 minutes to 10. And I had more gratitude. I'll be there 10 minutes to 10. And it just kept going. And anyway, there I am. Unbelievable. I hit the turn signal, tick tock, and I'm pulling into the driveway. I take the paper off of the clock. I look down, 10 minutes to 10. I was like, wow, what the? It was unbelievable.
That is a wonderful example. And, we can live like that every day.
Yes.
We can live like that every day. And it's not just time. I have a similar one with lost keys in a 100-acre farm.
Wow.
At dusk. And we found them. I won't tell the whole story, but that way, lost key, my cousin's getting ready to go. We're at the farm. Hey, wait, you see my keys? And so we're all out there and everybody's tense and upset and somebody's blaming somebody else. And I was just like, be grateful, relax.
Yeah.
See yourself celebrating having the keys in your hand, be grateful. Yeah. And within 25 minutes on a 100-acre farm, we found the set of keys.
Synchronicities and coincidences.
And it was all that same thing, right? Just relax, put yourself, make a different choice in how you're going to be, make a higher vibe, being choice here, and celebrate that it's already complete, that you have what you need. So, you're absolutely, it's not, finding things, creating outcomes, networking, meeting people that you need to meet. I was just telling you about this exotic gig that I have halfway around the world, just because a friend gave my name.
Awesome.
Synchronicities.
Yeah.
Really wonderful, Bill.
Well, thank you for letting me share that.
Yeah, and what you teach people through Cognomovement that you develop. So just in a sentence or two, maybe three. I know it's a lot to say, but what is it that you do through Cognomovement that gives people access to moving through these dimensions?
So in a nutshell, what I do is I exploit a natural neurological response that you have to free one up from everything in the third dimension. All of those reactions go away, and naturally you're going to move up to the fourth dimension. As simply as I can put it, that is what it is. And it's done through your actual body and movement.
Yeah. That's really wonderful. I've so enjoyed the work with you, and you're just masterful at it. I really appreciate how much recognition you're getting, through being on Gaiam TV and having thoughts, your own kind of show there where people are practicing Cognomovement, and you have hundreds of Cognomovement practitioners around the globe, I believe, right?
Yeah, well, we have, some are active and, some of them are under, incognito, but they're all over the place.
It's really, really fantastic. I like to ask people this kind of a couple questions I want to ask you as we wrap up. One is, how do you understand consciousness? There's hundreds of people out there now, thousands probably, who are quote consciousness teachers. I've been in the game for 30 years. I know you've been around this space for a long time, but yet, there's no real one definition of what we mean by consciousness. So what's your understanding of that word as we talk about consciousness inside of conscious living?
So my understanding of it is the awareness, right? And what awareness do you have? We start off life with very limited awareness, right? We're aware of eating and mom and dad and that sort of thing. And as we grow, we become more aware of, family, friends, and different things that are around us. As time goes on, we understand better the interrelationship in between us is the way that I like to look at this is our growth, right? Our changing our consciousness. And in relationship to each other, we change our consciousness.
Yeah.
If I, for example, had a situation that something was stolen from me,
Mm-hmm.
and then I look out and I say, well, have I ever done that? Have I ever stole something? Well, yeah, you took that bubble gum when you're 18 years old and stuck it in your back pocket, not so good, okay, you start to learn, well, it doesn't feel so good to get your stuff stolen, so maybe you don't want to do that anymore. So we are all on our path learning different lessons about our understanding our consciousness.
Yeah. That's really great. I love it. Thank you for the concise thought about that. And Bill, for people who are going to want to track you down, hear more about Cognomovement, maybe do some work with you, where's the best way to find you and the work that you're doing?
Really easy. Just cognomovement.com. That's
Cognomovement.
cogno like cognitive, COGNO, movement.com. And we have 2 free ebooks for you there. One of them is called Suffering is Optional, if you go to the website. And another free ebook is called The Tiny Book of Big Manifesting. And with that book, you will see things you had never considered about manifesting and speed the process up.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing that with people. I'm sure lots of people want to download it. I know I do. So thank you for your time here with us at the Conscious Living Summit, for being the bonus content, the extra special message for people who are listening to us today. I really, really appreciate your generosity, your love, your wisdom, and just how much you are living authentically, being a change maker out there, raising consciousness on the planet. So thank you so much. And I look forward to our next project together.
Thank you.